Hello everyone, and welcome to the Game Review, where we take a look back at all our favorite horror games. I'm your host, the ghost that boasts the most, Rob. Today, my friends, we are covering the psychological horror game Visage, released in 2020. Visage was produced and developed by Canadian-based Sad Square Studios. Visage started development in January of 2015 and was announced in September of the same year. Visage was successfully financed by a Kickstarter running from January 2015 to March 2016. The game wasn't fully released for PC until October 2020 and October 2021 for consoles the year after. In an interview with IGN, producers over at Sad Square Studios said that they wanted most of the scares to come from the general mood of the game, the uncanny valley being their primary tool for this. Now, I believe they mostly succeeded at this, though later parts of the game used the jump scare a little too liberally. What do I mean by this? Let's find out and get into the game.
After starting, the game opens to an unnerving scene as your character is loading a revolver in front of what I can only assume is your family tied and blindfolded to chairs. After the gun is loaded, you proceed to shoot each of them in turn, saving yourself for last.
That's certainly one way to avoid taxes.
After this, you stumble into the house and the game begins. Dolores Chapter, A Twisted Dream.
Now, I've seen in other people's playthrough that this is actually the second chapter, but in my playthrough it was the first, so this is where I'm starting.
The chapter begins when you grab a key outside of the living room. Not far from here, you'll find the mirrored door the key goes to. Going in and pulling the sheet off of the mirror, looking away, will cause the mirror to vanish and trigger the living room door to open. Going into the living room, you'll find another sheet. Pulling the sheet down starts what, in my opinion, is one of the most interesting parts of this game. You must find and use a sledgehammer to break open antique mirrors placed randomly around the house. Smashy, smashy. Oh, Dolores. Dolores, baby girl, how you been? I simply love this concept, from the imagery to the metaphoric meaning behind it.
Now, I like the idea of having to put Dolores' story together by breaking down the fragile reflections of her memories.
Finding and collecting the cassette tapes scattered around the mirrored worlds reveals the whole sordid story. George, having a mentally incapacitated wife, the titular Dolores, a newborn baby, and his need to make a living, George resorts to drugging Dolores to care for his newborn baby and get some work done.
Pause. Let me just say that drugging a family member so that you could get some work done is an incredibly inappropriate and awful way to handle a difficult situation. Or so it has been explained to me.
Eventually, after realizing what's happening, Dolores, in a fit of rage, stabs George 7 times, killing him.
At least, that's what the refrigerator told me.
Heard and saddle up. It's big news. I heard that the old woman murdered her husband in cold blood. Not only that, but I heard that she plunged 7 knives in his chest and that he's sitting dead in his study room. How crazy is that?
After murdering her husband, she hangs herself from the bedroom ceiling.
Now, what happens to the baby here is honestly up for debate. Some people believe that Dolores left her baby to die of exposure and neglect. Others think she just smothered the baby. I even read an interesting theory on the Visage subreddit that she never even had the baby at all. Personally, I think that in her delusion that she took the baby and accidentally, or on purpose, put the baby into the oven believing she was baking a cake. My evidence for this?
Dolores literally smacks you with a crowbar, then throws you into an oven alive. Later in the chapter, after collecting the crank for the phonograph, the baby bed suspended above begins to burn up. I believe at the end of the chapter, in a moment of clarity, she returns the baby to its bassinet and hangs herself out of guilt. The baby crying being a horrible memory. Picking up the hand mirror ends the chapter. On the second floor, you'll find a door with a panda drawing on it. Picking this up will start what, in my opinion, is one of the scariest parts of the game, Lucy's chapter. Knocking 3 times on the back of the wall of the closet invites something to knock back. From here, you need to go to the living room downstairs, turn off the television, walk away, and it'll turn back on by itself. Looking at the image on screen of Lucy standing in the TV room in the basement lets you know where to go next. You need to grab the basement key from the table by the door if you haven't already.
Sidebar. Now, on my initial playthrough of this game, I actually thought the game had glitched out because I ended up wandering around for hours without knowing what to do next. I would walk around the house leaving the living room television on because it was a source of light that would help knock down my insanity. This helped me out a lot, so I would often leave the television on. It wasn't until I actually Googled what I was supposed to do that I actually figured out that I was supposed to turn the television off. It was incredibly frustrating, and you could even kind of see it in my playthrough when I realized that this is what you were supposed to do, and nothing indicated that.
Heading to the basement where Lucy was standing will trigger the camera to spawn, as well as Lucy stepping forward from the darkness to leave you a bit of foreshadowing. Now that you have the camera, you need to follow the crayon path only revealed through the flash of the camera. Doing this will eventually lead you back to Lucy's room and yet another jump scare. No! No, 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 no. Are those the light switches? Oh my god, no, those are the light switches. No, 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 no. We don't play this game in the dark. We don't play this game in the dark. Gaining access to her room will take you to one of the scarier sequences of the chapter, having to find the key in a dark room while Lucy chases you. After a few more spooky encounters, you will end up in the bathroom where Lucy's backstory is finally revealed. While watching TV, Lucy begins talking to a demon within the television set, poltergeist style. After meeting said demon, Lucy starts acting oddly. She kills her pet bird, she stops calling her mother mom, and is heavily medicated by the doctors who don't understand what's happening to this poor child. Her story ends when she uses a razor to cut off her lower jaw. Picking up the lower jaw from the sink ends her chapter.
Nothing like a bit of crime scene evidence as a souvenir. I'm definitely on a list somewhere, aren't I?
Grabbing the crutch, leaning against the staircase starts Raken's chapter. After sitting in the wheelchair in the room, you are treated to a series of flashbacks where we quickly realize that Raken is one of those conspiracy nuts who thinks the government is watching their every move.
Here you are, little piece of crap. You think you can get me that easily, huh? Nice try, you fucks!
Raken, I'm sure it's just some bullshit. After which you are greeted by a physical representation of this phobia. A locked door with an eye embedded within it. The only way to gain passage is by poking out the living eye in the painting opposite the door.
Enjoy the show. Silvio, yeah, I'm reversing my peephole.
Sitting in the wheelchair brings you to the hospital for the very first time. After a series of puzzles, you will find the exit. When returning to the house, it has been taken over by a network of moldy tree branches and vines. Here you encounter the first of many chase scenes of the chapter, as you must poke out all the eyes to gain passage, as Raken chases you. Now I honestly have no idea what these guys are supposed to be.
The most I can gather is they are the physical manifestation of Raken's fear, his faceless watchers.
The basement holds its own perils. Here you need to find a key card and clear the elevator of bodies
That were totally there when I got there, okay? Pinky promise.
Once clear, the elevator returns you to the main floor. You must navigate the halls while avoiding all the dollar store Silent Hill nurses. After more exploration, puzzles, jump scares, you will reach the end of Raken's chapter. Raken's fate is probably the worst of the three. As soon as he realizes that he was right all along, he is locked in a room and left to die. And with that, the end of his story. Grabbing the reverse peephole ends Raken's chapter.
Another collectible body part? FBI should be knocking on the door any minute now. Now, I'll keep this short and sweet, but in order to get the mirrored mask and thus the end of the game, you must first gather all the pieces using the VHS tapes that you find lying around the house and riddle out their clues.
They range in length from short and to the point and long and story driven. Reassembling all the pieces of the mask, wearing it, knocking a hole in the wall in the basement, And going through the door ends this game.
And with that, we roll credits on this amazing game. So how does this game stack up? Let's find out and get to my final impressions. All right, guys, welcome to the final impressions. First thing we're gonna look at is gameplay. I simply love this game. From the very beginning, the game creates an incredible sense of foreboding, like death is just around the corner. The game design is simple, very easy for a casual player to pick up. The constant flickering of lights and creaks in the distance, always reminding you that you are never safe in the house no matter where you are. The sound design is simply this game's strongest feature. Sad Square Studios honestly really captured the environment of a creepy house. That being said, I do have my gripes with this game. First, it could just be me, but the constant and endless wandering and lack of knowing what to do next really got to me. I found that a lot of times in the game, you knew exactly where to go next, and other times, you were just left to your own devices. Secondly, I simply loved Lucy's chapter. It was really scary and I did like the story behind it. Unfortunately, it did overly rely on jump scares, but that could just be a pet peeve of mine. I realized I jumped to every single one of them, but with diminishing returns. It got old, let me tell you. Luckily, most of the jump scares were reserved for Lucy's chapter. Though this game is certainly a lot of fun your first time through, unfortunately, there isn't a lot to be gained on repeated playthroughs. Unless you're just enjoying the story as a whole or attempting the platinum, beyond the second ending and a few Easter eggs, there isn't much substance left after your initial playthrough. In terms of story, Lucy's chapter was definitely the scariest. Dolores' chapter was definitely the most interesting. Raken's chapter was definitely the most unsettling. And the mirrored mask was just sort of confusing. Again, this could be my personal opinion. I thought the story overall was very strong. There were some inconsistencies and a little bit of confusing story elements, but overall, it was enjoyable. And I like that they left a lot to the imagination because I believe that a discussion of the game after the game is just as important as playing the game. This game is definitely a conversation builder, and theories about this game are everywhere. Just look at the subreddit. It is incredible. Story can be one of the strongest parts of any game. After all, the story is what keeps you here. The story is why you keep playing. Story might actually be the only reason you would want to replay this game, and I gotta tell you, it's a pretty good reason. Unlike trophies in today's modern world of online gaming, getting the platinum in this game is certainly achievable. If you were a fan and enjoyed your time playing the game, then getting all the trophies is a great way to extend your playtime. It's definitely worth it. If you guys would like a guide on how to get all the trophies, I'll leave a link in the description to a video that I actually found very helpful. But good luck with the gotcha trophy. Screw that achievement, that's all I'm gonna say about it.
Yes, 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 yes! Success! You have no idea. You have no idea how long I was trying to get him. That little MFer.
Platinum trophy goes to the strongest part of the game, and this initial trophy will go to the game's story.
It's getting harder to cope with her outbursts, but my love for her is strong still.
I like to think of myself as a writer, and I can really appreciate a good story. There were just so many unique elements in this game to really sink your teeth into. I think there was a little bit of something for everyone in this one. Bronze trophy will go to the weakest part of the game. For this, I gotta give it to the replay value. Beyond your first playthrough, there isn't much else to do. Come on, game, you were just getting good. I want a reason to spend more time with you. With a total playtime of 14 to 20 hours, depending on how much you explore, playtime being 8 to 10 hours, and trophy hunting adding an additional 6 to 10, the game was scary, short, and sweet. Like I said, an easy playthrough for those of us with limited time in our days. There was a bit of the game that relied a little too much on jump scares for my taste, and I also found myself losing interest as I would aimlessly walk around the halls, not knowing what to do next. But the atmosphere, sound design, and incredible collection of stories more than make up for the small amount of weaknesses that this game had. If you'd like to see my playthrough of this game, I'll leave a link to that playlist in the description. And if you're ever wondering what equipment I use to make my videos, I'll leave a link to that stuff in the description below. They are affiliate links. Anything you can do to help the channel is always appreciated. Make sure you check out my playthrough of this game. I had so much fun playing it. And if there are any games that you guys would like me to play or review or both, let me know in the comment section down below. If you haven't played Visage, I highly recommend you do so. Thanks again for watching, and if you guys like scary games, or watching people play scary games, or watching people review scary games, hell, even if you're just like me, like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!